Africans and Negroes are two different peoples. You know, race and skin colour are really a red herring. Okay, it's a kind of divisive lie that has been put about, and I'm going to go into this a bit more in detail. Yeah, to separate people by perceived race is a distraction. Okay, so we all think that all black people are the same, basically, but they're not. Africans and Negroes are different. They have a different skeletal structure, different skull shape, and one interesting thing is African people, real Africans, cannot grow hair like Negroes can. So African men cannot grow beards. All right? African women cannot grow afros. Right? It's a very powerful thing. If you see real African women, you'll see that they've always got very, very short hair, because literally they can't grow it. Very quickly, Adam was not the very first man. The Bible is only covering a period of time which is about 7,000 years, the last 7,000 years of Earth's history. It doesn't cover before that period. There were people before that period, and the first verses of the Bible actually tell you that. If you read it properly and you read it with the translating the Paleo-Hebrew, some of the words aren't translated quite correctly, and you know, gives you an impression that it's all happening contemporaneously, but it's not. It's actually there's like a gap period in between the first two verses. So the biblical Israelites were black. It says that Ham, this is according to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, Ham was a progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. They're separate people. But the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, Canaanites. So it's telling you there that, again, the Egyptians and what became the Africans were black people. So going through the Bible, I'm not going to go through all of these, but yeah, Joseph in the Bible was so much like an Egyptian that his own brothers didn't recognise him. So obviously he looked like an Egyptian, so you know, the Israelites were black people. Moses was also an Israelite, but he was raised under the nose of Pharaoh, so you know, he'd kind of stand out if he was a white guy. And he was also mistaken as an Egyptian by the daughters of the priest of Midian. And also Moses' sister, Miriam, was turned white as a punishment. So there's a lot more biblical references that tell you that the Israelites were actually black people. But yeah, you can like go through it in the Bible. And throughout the what's called the Renaissance period, all of the artwork was replaced throughout Europe. But because Russia, well, it was a kind of insular society at that time, Renaissance didn't get to Russia. So you can go online and search for Russian icons, and you'll find that everybody who was portrayed in the Bible were portrayed black. And yeah, after Renaissance, all that artwork was destroyed and replaced with whitenized versions. But you know, 500 years ago, prior to 500 years ago, this is how they were always depicted. And the last thing is that this man is the ex-president of Egypt, and he was quoted on television to say, "We can't accept the Jews because they left here black but came back white." So, and he literally said that on television. And yeah, he was murdered not long after that. So yeah, in Psalms it tells you that that all the nations were going to come against these people, and they were going to make sure that their name would be forgotten, and they would forget who they are. And that's what's happened. And all these nations are confederate against them. These are all the nations that Esau mixed with. Because Esau felt cheated of his birthright, yeah, the ancestral hatred has remained, yeah, even though he's been spread out across all these different nations. So when the Europeans came to get slaves, Not a single African went into slavery. What happened was the slavers came for the Judeans, the Negroes, and it was the Africans who actually sold them into slavery. It was the Arabs and the Africans who sold them into slavery. Right? They didn't sell themselves into slavery. It was the Africans were selling the outsiders, the ones who came in and were actually prospering in the wilderness of their land. So that dispels that myth that Africans were selling each other into slavery.